cool to have you here.
Thank you. My privilege. Told my class about all the good things you're doing. I said, you guys got to do what Wanye's doing. He's out there, finding people to help. About every couple of weeks, I was getting emails from different fitness facilities that had opened up, and their people were coming back. Their members are coming back, and they couldn't get fitness instructors. I said, we need some of your instructors. I don't have any. I said, I lost a lot of students through this too, because people say, well, why go into fitness if there aren't any jobs? And if there are jobs, they got all these people that are have been furloughed or laid off that are going to get them. But that's not the case. They can't find people because they've all gone someplace else. So they're looking at our people. I don't have anybody ready. I don't have anybody that's passed the exam because they are all new people. So I don't have any, and I've given them some interns, which are good. They're good interns and they can work, but they can't work independently like a personal trainer without their ACE certification or ACSM or something like that. But yeah, there are jobs out there now, but I think you're still doing the wisest thing, because who knows, this could can go up and down. It could change back anytime.
Well, let me ask you this too, right? Like I talk to a lot of guys, and that's who I'm gearing this for, right? And we kind of go over to build up their discipline with the daily habits of exercise and whatnot. But now,
yes,
the other thing we all do is, so like the parameters is 3 times a week strength training. We try to do a fast like every, if not every week, but maybe like once a month, some sort of fasting, right? Because now you're not being pulled to sugar. You're watching yourself, watching your thoughts, which gets into like some of the self-beliefs we hold about ourselves. And I feel like I'm in this group too, but all the guys I've spoken with, a lot of their issues and things that came into training, but also in life, is just discipline and responsibility. And I mean, when you're telling me some of the guys aren't even showing up for exercise science, I mean, I think it's the best job in the world. If you're a personal trainer or you're helping people, it's like,
absolutely,
you have to be part of what you're preaching to be able to help somebody else. And so if people are just dropping out, it's like,
and
that's a sign, right? It's a sign that the guys don't even want to get in there.
Yeah, I consider our profession to be preventive medicine. We're trying to help people avoid going to doctors because of back issues and arthritis and physical issues of the musculoskeletal system, but also heart issues and various types of cancer that are related to a sedentary lifestyle. We're trying to help them stay healthy as well as fit, and to avoid being on a lot of medications like blood pressure medications or cholesterol medications, diabetes medications, heart medications, all those things, which all have side effects. So I consider, and many people do consider this to be preventive medicine. There's a large group of ACSM. In fact, there's a separate conference called the Exercises Medicine Conference. I spoke at that a couple of years ago at the international conference. It was out, actually, I think it was in Minneapolis, where I spoke at that one. Exercise is medicine, and it's a type of medicine. So I think it's a great profession, but people are a little scared. So the classes, when you were here, we had you and we had Stephen and all the bright people. It was wonderful. Usually we'd average, like in the 102 class, we'd have 25 to 30 students in that class. Now we're averaging under 10. So we've lost about 2/3, more than half, at least more than half of our former student body in exercise science. They've been told not, I don't know, their guidance counselors tell them, or their parents say, no, you don't want to do that. What if we get another outbreak of COVID, you won't have a job. So it's been challenging.
Now, like, in terms of like stuff you see guys doing wrong, what would that be? In general, like you're around a lot of young guys.
Right. Are you talking about people that are in the fitness industry, or people that are
in general, just
in
like
general?
Maybe just like things that you feel like your generation didn't do as much. What kind of pisses you off from the students you see?
They're always on their phones. So my generation, of course, didn't do that. So they're on their phones. When you're on your phone, it's hard to be active. You're focused on that. It's hard to study also, but it's hard to be active. They're on the phones. And when they're not on their phones, they would be on their computers. And then on the computers, they're watching television. We got too many screens in our society right now, and screen time far outweighs probably everything else put together, but certainly exercise time or fitness time, or even just plain moving, going for a walk with your family, your dog, your wife, your husband, whatever. So we have a society that is not moving as much as it should be moving, and a society that sits a lot because if you are working from home, you probably don't have a standing desk at your home. You're probably sitting in front of the Zoom all day, or at least at the office. You'd talk with people, you'd interact, you'd go here, you go there, you go out for lunch or something, or go for a walk. Like people here, sometimes you go for a walk down along the shore, Quincy Shore Drive, get a little walk in, etc. And I'm not sure that's happening with people that are, at home all the time. The other thing is, when you're at work, you might pack a lunch, or you might go up to the store and you're going to buy, a turkey sub or something like that upstairs from where we're in the basement at President's Place. But when you're home, that refrigerator and the cupboards there all day. Oh, I feel like a snack. You already paid for it. You don't have to say, oh, I'm not going to buy anything else. I already bought my lunch. So, no, it's already paid for. It's already here. And you tend to probably spend a little more time in the refrigerator than you would at work. You probably spend less time at the water cooler drinking 0-calorie water and drinking something that has more calories in it. It's just the whole thing of being at home. Now, my folks lived at home, but they were farmers, so they're really active. They weren't on Zoom. They weren't at desk. They were out with they were dairy farmers. They were out in the fields or with the cows or milking or doing that all day long. And now when someone's home, they're probably not doing as much activity, and they're probably eating more than they would normally eat. So we've heard of the COVID-15, excuse me, where everybody's been putting on weight because they're not as active and they have more accessibility to their food. So I'd say those are two things that have made it a little worse in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. So and phone time leads into a lot of distractions, and then maybe just unmindful eating. Like, is this really the best option? Is going to lead into that.
Right. That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And I think we've talked about it before, that you like the fasting. Like, what do you know, or what do you do with fasting?
Oh, this is not good, but I, for many years, only ate one meal a day. I ate my evening meal. It was a big meal. I didn't eat breakfast. That was not smart. I didn't eat lunch. I still don't eat lunch. That just comes at a bad time of day for me. I'm usually teaching through the lunch hour and whatever. So I don't eat lunch, but I have started eating a healthy breakfast and a healthy dinner. I've always eaten healthy, but I have to laugh because everybody used to yell at me and say, oh, you should be eating 6 meals a day. And this is crazy. I know, I just can't do it. And now intermittent fasting is kind of in the mainstream of 1 meal a day, or at least all your meals within a certain time frame. So I'm thinking, hey, I started that years ago. I was ahead of my time, but I don't eat lunch. I eat I said a good breakfast. Sometimes I eat a good breakfast. Most days I eat a protein shake for breakfast. I do a protein shake, and then I eat dinner. I eat if I eat bread, it's always whole grain, good seed bread, seeds and grains. Always eat a tossed salad, healthy salad with healthy dressing, basically just a little oil and vinegar, maybe a little something else my wife will throw there for flavoring, but it's pretty good. And then always try to have at least 2 vegetables, usually 3. Big on veggies. I have a big garden, so we'd have in addition to salad, at least two good veggies, fresh if I can get them, rather than canned or frozen. But canned or frozen are fine too. Frozen, I don't do canned because there's so much sodium in it. But frozen. And then I'm not a meat eater, so I'm fish, chicken, turkey. And, I try and keep a pretty reasonable servings of those. And then I always
fasting because of some reason, or did you just like it?
Yeah, I was going to finish on this for a second. I always eat fruit. I have always an apple, a banana, and orange for dinner, and then I'll have a little bit of dried fruit, like maybe dates or prunes or raisins or dried cranberry, something like that. And then I always eat some nuts. I'm big on nuts also. I like walnuts, and almonds are my favorite. Walnuts have the best fats and the best oils, and almonds have the most protein and also the most calcium. So I have one of those. So I try to eat very healthy, but no, I got into the got into skipping lunch. Oh dear, my wife better not see this. But I got into skipping lunch because I had a girlfriend at college, and we broke up, and she started working at the cafeteria, where I lived off campus, but I went to the cafeteria for my meals, and she started working at noon. So I said, I can't see her anymore. I don't want to see her. It's too, it's too hard. So I started skipping lunches because of that. And then when I got into the real world, I just, it was a busy time of day. I always try to do more than I should do, which is not a good thing. I'm not saying you should do that, but I always continued to skip lunches.
So that's it, just accidentally, and then it has benefits. So you got it all.
I didn't really intend it until that, the girlfriend situation.
Right. Well, so you mentioned your dad being a dairy farmer.
Yes.
And so I would imagine he's smart, he's planning things, probably a pretty tough dude dealing with the conditions and it's just like, yep, you gotta work. And he had like values about what he did, like, and that's a lot of what we talk about. It'd be curious, like what did you learn from your dad that you felt like benefited you?
Oh, that's great. I like what you do in your instruction, because it's more than just fitness. I'm pretty much just fitness and nutrition. You do a much broader scope, and that's so important. My dad passed away quite a few years ago. He passed away in 2009 at the age of 98. But he was a hard worker. He had a great work ethic, and he never gave excuses. He never held grudges against people. He was very forgiving, very kind, always helpful. But he grew up, when his family grew up, he grew up in South Jersey, and his folks were just sharecroppers. They didn't even own a home. And so, if they didn't farm it, if they didn't grow it, they didn't eat it, basically. I mean, there were some things they could buy. They had some money, but they grew a lot of their food. And he was an incredible fisherman and a hunter, because they lived on a river, the farm that they ran, and they lived in the house, but they didn't own the house. They just and keep getting they got the house from doing their work, to live there, but it wasn't theirs. So they'd fish and catch crabs and fish and things like that down in South Jersey. And he was a hunter, man. He could hit anything. I'm not a hunter, but he could. When I was a boy, I used to go hunting with him, and he would see things that I didn't even know were there, and he'd just say, "Oh, see that squirrel sitting in that bush over there? I couldn't even see the bush, not a squirrel, rabbit, or whatever it was, So he's just always a good worker, and he always had huge gardens, made my garden look small by comparison, and just lived a very. He didn't do exercise as much as those later years, but he was exercising all day long. Farmers back then didn't really need to exercise the way that people do now. The bad news was that I'm glad he lived as long as he did, but being a dairy farmer and eating a lot of red meat and things like that as well, which went with that, I thought he'd have cholesterol issues and blood pressures, which he did have to some degree, but the work ethic, all the exercise, he was eating too much fat. Like the dairy back then was all whole milk. They didn't have 1% or 2% or non-fat. So he got a lot of fats in his diet, but they burn it off a lot because he was so active.
Right. I feel like that's a big piece of what's going on with the cholesterol, because I've read about cholesterol not being specific to dietary cholesterol.
You're right. Yeah, there's a lot of debate on that. Your body's going to produce a certain amount no matter what, and it's a very much genetic. Now you can make it worse with your diet, and there are other things that kind of close down the arteries, atherosclerosis, besides just the cholesterol. But the triglycerides, that's how fat actually travels through the bloodstream as triglycerides. And there are a lot of other factors, but yes, I have a little bit of a cholesterol issue. It's not bad, but I inherited it from my mother's side, who her whole family, she's the one that grew up in New York State where they do dairy farming. My dad, when he grew up, he was a farmer, tomatoes and peaches and things like that, that they would sell down in South Jersey. But when they got married, he took over the farm because her dad had a stroke at a very early age, and he took over the farm to help. And so he became a dairy farmer. And my mom had a cholesterol problem, and I inherited that. So even though I eat very, very healthy, I still have to, watch that a little bit. You're right. It's not just the food. Absolutely correct.
But the other thing too, since we're getting into some of the nitty gritty stuff with like cholesterol and things like that, it's like I've read some stuff about testosterone, and some of the things, like a lot of the time when I'm talking to guys, we're talking depression, anxiety, stuff like that. And what I've read from, I don't know, whatever source research I can get my hands on, was that testosterone has a pretty big role in the way you see the world and things. And then a lot of the guys growing up now have lower testosterone than generation ago. Have you read anything like that?
Yeah. And we hear a lot about menopause for women with estrogen. And that's a real thing. I mean, we're talking serious depression and all kinds of lifestyle changes they have to make. But men at a slightly lower level go through the same thing at about the same age, around 50s, in the 50s or so, when the testosterone levels decrease. It can affect, I mean, that's a very important hormone, and it does more than we think it does. It has a lot of functions, and not to mention your muscularity and your vitality and those type of things as well, your vigor. So the same around the age 50, the sex hormones play a major role in attitudes and dispositions and outlook on life, as well as physical abilities. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, some of that too. It's funny because like people haven't been dealing with that, but I've met guys in their 30s with low T problems.
Oh yeah, right.
And so I've been just telling people to check it, but I was just wondering if you had seen it at all, because you read a lot.
Yeah, no, and there are a lot of approaches to that. I've been up to some of the universities in Boston. I've been invited to see what they're doing, and with the human growth hormone and testosterone additions to older individuals, and there are pros and cons. Everything that you do like that has some side effects, of course, and if you can still produce on your own, and if strength training helps you to do that, and maybe some other things, you're probably a little better off going that route, so that your body senses you still need to produce it. You're not getting it from an exogenous source, an outside source. So we feel that strength training and exercise in general, but strength training would be particularly important for those issues: human growth hormone, testosterone, et cetera. Strength training, generally, if you do it properly, tends to enhance production, for at least a period of time after you've worked out.
Yeah. So it's like all these natural benefits, and that's the thing. It's just bringing it in so that you click them all on. It's like, get your workout in, get your testosterone. Then it's like throughout the month, throw a fast in there. There's a lot of studies with that, where if you don't fast, you're generating hormones. And
I don't fast other than my daily lunch. I don't fast as much as I should. I'll be fasting this Thursday though, because older individuals are scheduled every 10 years for colonoscopies, and you have to fast the whole day before. It used to be just the evening before. In fact, you can't eat any of the foods I eat. Can't eat any raw veggies, can't eat any nuts, can't eat any fresh fruits or dried fruits for 3 full days. I'm gonna go crazy. No seeds, no nuts, no salads, and you can't eat corn or beans or a lot of veggies. So I'll be fasting this Thursday.
forced to fast. Yeah,
I know. Yeah,
that's
I sometimes fast. As part of my Christian worship, that type of thing, but I don't do it that often. I need to do more fasting. Trust me.
That's cool. Well, hey, I want to go over quickly too some of the stuff with like Arthur Jones. you have a really inside perspective of Arthur Jones, and he created all the Nautilus stuff. And I think a lot of guys don't use the Nautilus to the degree they should, or they could.
Yeah, it's good stuff. It's really good stuff. He was so far ahead of his time. I was watching some videos of some top strength coaches, and they were asked, well, what's better, free weights or bands or machines? And he said, well, it depends on the machine. He said, if you're comparing a bench press, he didn't say this, but he could have just used this. I'm going to give the example. He explain it generally, but he says, basically, if you're doing a bench press and you're out here a barbell bench press, I got my arms out wide, you can't get a full contraction of your pecs. You can't come across the true horizontal shoulder flexed position. He says, but there are machines out there, and we have one sitting 10 feet from me. The Nautilus machine starts wide and it converges, it comes narrow. So it's sort of like doing a dumbbell fly and a barbell press at the same time. But the fly, by the time you get up here, you're not really working against gravity because you're coming horizontal, not working against gravity. In the first part, you're lifting it, but the second part, you're not. It's too easy. So that sometimes those machines give you a better range of movement for a full contraction, the way they're designed. Some of them are like that. With the shoulder press machine, it converges also as you come in. So you can get, you're not ending up out here, you're ending up way up here. So same thing oftentimes with some of the pulling apparatus, they will pull in the way that the lats will actually bring you in or something of that nature. So machines are good, but also about the machines, you have a strength curve. So I have to like barbell bench press. That's my favorite exercise. It always has been. But when you're down here, you're in a kind of a weak position. When you do an extension movement that involves two joints, like any pressing movement, shoulder press, incline press, bench press, bar dip, anything that's a pressing movement, even a squat would be like this. You get stronger and stronger and stronger as you extend the elbow joint in the pressing movements. It's strictly leverage. Okay, your first and third class levers of your shoulder joint and elbow joint, respectively, for your triceps and your pecs and your abdominals, they tend to function more like a second class lever, and you get stronger and stronger. So if I could handle 150 pounds here, which means that's the most I can use because I have to get through that sticking point, I might be able to handle actually 200 pounds up here, the last part, but the weight's only 150. So the Nautilus machines have a CAM, a counter leverage system, that adjusts the percentage of weight you're using based on the average person. It's pretty much the same for all of us. Strength curve, we've got pretty much the same strength curve. If we can do 75% of our max here, 80, 85, 95, 100%, the same. So no matter what weight you're on, it gives you that percentage to kind of match the resistance force to your muscle force throughout the entire movement range. Is that important? It could be. Can I get a pretty good workout on my barbell for my pecs and anterior delts and try? Yeah, but I'm doing quite a few sets. When I'm on the Nautilus machine, I'm doing a warm up, that doesn't really build anything, but it sets my neuromuscular system, and then I go to my max for 10 reps, and I get a pretty good workout. So I'm doing free weights right now for my upper body. I'm doing lower body with Nautilus machines, but there was a time I did everything with the Nautilus machines, and it worked just as well as my free weights. I'm not saying it worked any better, but it took me about 20% as much time as the free. So I'm doing one set of everything instead of maybe four sets of things. So there's a lot of benefits to using well-designed fitness equipment.
Right. You got to have the right design. But the thing that's wild with this is, Dorian Yates, the bodybuilder.
Yes, I do. Yes, he was a high intensity trainer.
He was on London Real, and he mentions you and Arthur Jones, and he talks about how everything you wrote out with the one set, the principle of the one sets, like you can get the same benefit from 3 or 4 sets. So you're only getting more benefit if you train within tight 90-second parameter, right? Like real intense, real heavy, whatever your goal is for how you train, but make it like that, right? And so like there's a way to train on that. It's pretty cool. When I heard it, I was like, Dorian Yates, Wanye Westcott, Arthur Jones, they all, he's probably the byproduct that Arthur Jones never knew he made.
Yes. Arthur trained Casey Viator, who was the youngest Mr. America at 19. he trained him, I think 2 at most 3 times a week with a brief workout with a high intensity. Now, he did some of the things we do in our 116 class where they do breakdown training and assisted and pre-exhaust and some super slows in there, different things like that. So it was an extended single set, but it was very effective and very time efficient. And of course, when I worked with 6 of the NFL football teams, every team that I was privileged to be a consultant for was a high intensity team. They were doing the Nautilus principles. And at that time, this is quite a few years ago, but at that time, they won a lot of Super Bowls. The Steelers won 4 during that time period. The Washington Redskins, now they're called the Washington Commanders, they won 4. Tampa Bay won 1. The Vikings were always in the playoffs. I'm trying to think of some others that I worked with that won. The Ravens did very well in those years. So the high intensity worked for professional football players, even if it would work for someone like me who's just a fitness enthusiast. Yeah.
Right. If it's working at the top tier, it'll work wherever we are. That's it.
I'm not saying, there are a lot of other teams that train with high volume rather than high intensity, and they do great. The Patriots are a high volume team, and they've won a lot more Super Bowls than anybody else, right? Or at least a couple more than anybody else. But actually, Tom Brady, when he was with the Patriots, he went to Michigan, and Michigan, along with Ohio State, where I did some work, and Penn State, where I taught and coached, and some others, they were all high intensity teams. So during his college years, he was training high intensity. I don't think the Patriots did. I think they had a little different approach, but it certainly worked. So there are a lot of ways you can achieve strength fitness, but certainly if you're looking at time efficiency for busy individuals, Arthur's principles worked very, very, very well. They're actually quite profound.
Yeah. Well, look, everything you shared here is going to help people. The other thing is,
thank you.
I want to tell, right, it's like being with you for 2 years, you're just disciplined, and anybody that's coming in to talk to you, they're going to get the answer, and they're going to get a lot more than they might even be able to use. And
yeah, I talk too much, but
well, they got to come back. They got to come back and hear it again, because you could go on about protein and things to do, and the more discipline and consistency you get with it, you got to treat it like a science, like how you look at it.
Thank you.
And then
it's very kind of you. Thank you. Thanks, Ryan. Well, I wish I had all my students were like you and really were brilliant. But even if they're not brilliant, at least they were interested to the degree that you are, because that's how you learn. I was guilty of that in my undergraduate program. I didn't care as much. I didn't know what I was getting into. But in my graduate programs, I said, "Oh, now I've been out teaching. I know what I need to know now." Boy, I paid very good attention and tried to learn as much as I could. You picked that up much earlier than I did, so congratulations to you.
Hopefully.
Excuse me.
And you used to talk about riding your motorcycle around in Florida, being a motorcycle guy back in the day.
Well, yeah. I was teaching at Florida State, and it's nice weather there all year long. And my wife had a job at a print shop. She was working. We only had one car. I was young, and so I got a motorcycle. I said, I can ride my motorcycle all year round here. And it was 50 miles a gallon or 60 miles. I don't know. It was a pretty good motorcycle, but I didn't do crazy things. So I would ride my motorcycle to work and back almost every. Even if it rained, it didn't matter because it was a warm rain. I get home and just change. It was great. So yeah, it was fun, and the people were considerate of motorcycles at that time down there. I had my motorcycle here, and when I first moved up here, but just there's so much traffic and congestion, and the drivers in Boston are not quite as considerate to motorcycles, so I sold it. But yeah, I used to. Yeah, it wasn't quite as good a workout as riding a bike, but it was a little bit of a little more challenging than being in the car.
But if anything, I would think like you're studying exercise science stuff, and it's like you're primed. Like if you're on a motorcycle, you're really attentive to what's going on.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those other things. It's like it keeps you alert. There's no way you're gonna go in class and just fall asleep now. It's like, no, I just rode my bike. Like, be awake.
You're right. I never thought that way. Yeah, it was fun. It was good. It was good.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the time you give me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My privilege. It's good that you look fabulous. If anybody practices what they preach, it is you. So you've done it all. And I'm very proud of how you're helping so many people in far more expansive way than myself. I'm a little focused on physical fitness, and then within that, it's mostly strength training and a little nutrition, but mostly just the protein studies that we've done. So you've expanded to a whole lifestyle, which is so important, and I'm very, very proud of you.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. But
God
this
bless
is
you.
the thing, Wayne, is this is only the beginning.
Right.
Because this keeps going, and
Yeah.
it's like the layers that I've learned through you and other people is like, I'm not where I want to be, not even close.
No, I know. And you're young. You got a whole future ahead of you. Yes. Thank you again, Wyatt.
Yeah,
Great to
thank you.
see you, and thanks for what you're doing.
Yeah, you too. We'll speak soon. Have a good one.
All right. You too. Thank you.